In studio with me, we have Professor Manyora, we also have Moses and Mark Pichachi, basically looking at the week that has been. And just before we took the break, Mark, I had to cut you short because of time, but you were basically looking at the vetting that has been taking place in Parliament. And of course, there are questions being raised as to whether really it is vetting or it is just sanitizing those that have already been nominated. But also, as you finish off on that, there's a Transparency International Perception Index that was released yesterday, and Kenya moved from 146 to 142. However, still maintaining 2 points in terms of what we do, where 10 is good, 2 is where we are, which is not very good. But again, we have institutions, we have laws. What we had mentioned earlier is Chapter 6, which doesn't seem to be working for us. And definitely it's not addition of laws or institutions that we need for us to deal with our corruption issues.
You know, if you buy a new computer and it works fine and a virus gets into the computer, adding other programs does not deal with the virus in the computer. And that's what we do as a country. We keep adding programs to this institution called Kenya, hoping it will change. We need to put in an antivirus. We need to decide as a nation to re-engineer our culture. I'll give you an example of how corrupt Kenya is. When we are walking in the streets of Nairobi, do you know on which side to walk? We don't. That's how impractical we are, that we cannot decide that if I'm going this way, I stay on the right, and if I'm going this other way, I stay on what would be on my left. And that would ease the congestion of walking in a market in Nairobi, because we do not have the cultural software to deal with our cultural issues. It is the culture of us as a nation to actually be corrupt. Look at the number of people who would overlap on a road. Look at the number of people who are willing to bribe a police officer. So it's not a state issue, it is a personal issue. But at the same time, when you come to the perception index, it's a very dangerous thing. If you've ever visited any African country, you will realize that Kenya is not as corrupt as we think. It is corrupt, but it is not as corrupt as we think. This is what I mean. When you measure perception, because of the level of freedom and access to information that we have, the Kenyan perception of our own corruption is much higher because our awareness is higher. However, in 2013, there was a case in the Republic of Tanzania where sitting cabinet ministers were caught on CCTV going to a bank to withdraw money from the Ministries of Energy's escrow account in sacks and wheelbarrows. This happened in this decade.
Although we've had sacks and wheelbarrows carry money out of certain ministries in Kenya.
That was in the 90s. That was in the 90s. Kenya has improved significantly. Part of the reason Kenya has improved is because of how informed we are. But one of the things that we need to do as a country, instead of measuring perception, let us measure real corruption. The key difference is this, that instead of perception where we're measuring feeling, we're able to measure actual corruption and begin to hold actual people to account.
All right, Prof, let me come to you on this corruption issue. Are we closer to solving our problem? Bichachi says it's cultural. There are those who will disagree and say that when you have a government that is serious and wants to deal with corruption, culture or no culture, they can deal with it.
I think we don't have corruption in this country. Those who say we have corruption,
we don't have corruption in this country.
I strongly disagree.
Professor, you'd need to defend
what we
that
have
because
in this country,
that sounds like you don't live in this country.
Mike, what we have is are two things. One is bad manners. Two is raw theft. You don't call theft corruption. Corruption requires some intelligence.
Some finesse.
What people do in this country is just foolish theft. And I've argued that it can take even a first-year law student to prosecute these thieves and throw them in jail. And we must borrow from other countries like China, where if you were to steal from the state something like $1 billion shillings, you would be hanged. I mean corruption is something different. This is theft.
Ours is...
What do you do to a thief? You simply put him, arrest him, try him, throw him in jail. And that's the end of the story. Corruption, on the other hand, is high-level dealing that you require high-level intelligence to unravel, to follow, and to destroy. Having said that, we must say, as we all know, that if we dealt with this thing you are calling corruption, which I'm calling theft, this country can move to levels unimaginable. I'm telling you.
Right.
By his own admission, when he was the Minister for Finance, the current president, Uhuru Kenyatta, said we lose, out of every 10 shillings we collect, we lose 3 to this theft. You can imagine if we were to save that money and put it to where into development.
Moses Uhuru?
I think I'm forced to agree with what the professor is saying, that what you have in this country is daylight robbery. Because people just go pick money and stash them elsewhere, misallocate them, transfer them, and you know, it's visible. So in my opinion, and I think in majority of Kenyans' opinion, is that this thing must begin from the top. If the man holding the reins of power decided that from today,
corruption is over.
Theft is over. You know, robbery is over. Stealing of public coffers is over. This thing will stop. It will stop because, lucky enough, President Uhuru Kenyatta has been a Minister of Finance before. He knows how money flows from Treasury into ministries, departments, and eventually to the AI holders. The money is stolen at AI holders level. And this is known. This can be dealt with decisively.
All right, and the challenge is to the president to do that. But let's now go to Parliament, where we've had quite a lot happening. And before we comment on that, let's listen in to the Leader of Majority, Duale, and basically some of what has been happening as they are looking and presenting names for the PSC.
Momanyi, I know he will be in the commission because with the tyranny this side, definitely will go through. But I just want to advise him that probably really needs to look at where he belongs. Because when you see Jubilee cheering you, they may be cheering you to the slaughterhouse.
I understand the frustration of the minority leader and the minority whip. Ben Momanyi is not a surrogate member of parliament. Whether you have your next Friday, whether you have next year, whether you have it tonight, is none of the business of this house.
This issue of wiper, probably it is a matter that the coalition must look into. So serious, as the leader of minority, I've actually raised this matter with the leadership of NASA at the level of summit.
Professor, some, PSC jobs there seem to be very sought after, and we can see the battle that's going on. But what do you make out of what's going on in Parliament currently?
You know, one day I had the honor and privilege of giving a talk at a Raila function when he was doing a book launch, Quest for Nationhood. I think I gave some keynote address. And I told Raila to his face, I do not see you exhibiting the kind of seriousness that can convince me you want to be president of this country. To be president, you must show seriousness, which I'm not seeing. And I gave him examples. When instead of focusing on the presidency, everybody around you wants to get some small thing down there, you are not serious. Everybody around you want to be governor, want to be MP, including your own people in the family. It seems they don't know the meaning of the president. The president is, once you have the president, you can, all these other things, you'll have them. So why am I saying this? I'm saying this because I wonder why ODM and Raila in particular would not want to use these positions to bring other people as a kind of glue that would hold NASA together. Why would you want to hold them? To begin with, they are not positions of influence. If you are in the Parliamentary Service Commission, a PSC is not a place that employs many people. It's not like the Public Service Commission. So what are you going, apart from the money you get as leader of minority, there's no influence that you can say, if we gave somebody who is not on our side, at some point, he could go to bed with our opponents, and then we could lose out. There is nothing, there is no influence, you don't have numbers in parliament, and therefore you're not going to use parliament to do anything. These are just positions you can give to Wiper, give to ANC, give to other people other than yourself being ODM, being Luo. I can't understand. Honestly, I can't understand. Do you think
those shenanigans that are playing out there could also be spelling out for us that NASA may not be able to hold anymore?
No, I don't say that. That is too harsh. That is too harsh. I cannot say that. Why? I know NASA is not about Raila or any of these fellows around him. NASA is an idea. I think NASA belongs to Kenyans, because there are Kenyans. When I say Kenyans, people ask me, what do you mean by Kenyans? I just mean a significant portion of this country believe that the country is not going in the right direction, and they want to change that. That is what brings NASA together. So an individual as a leader can fall by the wayside, but the idea remains, the people remain, and they will push that. So NASA is not about to collapse, but the point I was making is that I think Raila and his people close to him would need to appreciate the fact that you use some of these opportunities to bring people closer to you and stay together.
Mark?
Yeah. You know, I like what Herman has said, and this is my contribution. Number one, I said before that there are 4 women in the Bible that you need to pay close attention to. There's the 2 women who came before Solomon, and Solomon said, cut the baby, and there's the woman who said, save the baby. Okay? And then there are these 2 other women in the book of Kings who come to the king and said, we ate my son yesterday, and this one has refused for us to eat the son today. And I said, in this country, if you want to know who your leaders are, check how they treat the baby called the future of Kenya. NASA, when it comes to vetting cabinet secretaries who hold the future of Kenya, they're absent. When it comes to vetting ambassadors, they're absent. When it comes to eating the baby, we can see them on the floor of the House, because the Parliamentary Service Commission is about their stomachs. That tells you that as a nation, we need to change. And the opportunity that NASA has is this. NASA has the opportunity, and I like what Mudavadi has said, to focus on 2022. Not for their sake, but for the sake of this nation. They need to focus on 2022 for the reason that they have county governments within their purview to implement what was the NASA agenda. On a smaller scale, but I can promise you in 2022, if NASA counties are doing better than Jubilee counties, you can bet your top dollar that Jubilee supporters will vote for NASA. This is where the focus needs to be. We need to ask ourselves, how are we treating the baby called Kenya? And we ask the same question of Jubilee. When they are appointing their cabinet secretaries, we need to make sure that every cabinet secretary moving forward is living up to what the president said. It is business unusual. We want unusual business in this country. We want unusual ministers who are going to change our country. That's what we need to. We need to stop having this sentimentality as to who gave birth to the baby. It does not matter who gave birth to the baby. How these women called our political parties and our political leaders treat the baby, tell us who is the real mother. Yes.
All right, Moses Uhuru, your comments on what's happening in Parliament, and include your closing comments as well, because I see we're running out of time.
Okay. I think politics and ODM needed to do a lot of PR around these positions in Parliament, and because they're the big brother in the NASA coalition. So the big brother, you know, elections didn't go the way all of us expected. And ODM produced a candidate, a very strong character, a very strong political leader, and an inspiring leader. So all they need to do is to do what, in my view, continues to buttress his strength, you know, his position and his leadership arrangement. So I don't think it's right for ODM to be laying claim onto these small positions.
Does it reveal, like Mark says, selfish agenda right there? given that they're not appearing for vetting, but when it comes to the Parliamentary Service Commission, they're there and very active.
Selfish is a bit too harsh. But I think they're not...
Why do you want to sugarcoat it? What's the word that you would use?
I think they're not strategic enough. Yeah.
It looks like they're strategic, but strategic
no, they're
for
not.
selfish
They're not. They're not strategic, because strategy is supposed to move you, catapult you higher, and then make you more attractive to your, not repulsive to your constituency. Yeah, so I think my closing remarks would be that all that has happened from last year to now calls for sobriety. I think the country is going through hardship. The common man is facing a lot of difficulties out there. People can't pay fees. People can't buy foods. Mortgages cannot be paid. A few people have mortgages, cannot pay them, and people have been thrown out of their homes and houses because of non-payment of rents. So as it is, we need to quickly come together as a country and find a way out of this mess, and focus on the future.
Prof, your closing comments?
I think I want to say that the president's big four will go nowhere unless, and this is about the appointments, he gets the right men and women and gives them the latitude to do what needs to be done. Because this country is where it is, because we do not appreciate the fact that those countries that have developed realized long time ago that you need to get the best you have for every serious job you have. We think just about anybody can do anything. And finally, the president's big four will mean nothing if he doesn't put an end to theft in this country and then borrowing. I'm asking Kenyans to read about the German state of Bavaria in the closing years of the 19th century, specifically around 1885, and they will know what borrowing can do to a country.
Yes. Mark, closing comments, very, very briefly.
Every citizen in Kenya must now indulge in the work of being, number one, the biggest critic of our leaders. Okay, we need to be able to be in a space where that we have people in office. We all need to be watching them carefully to be able to deliver. Every citizen has the responsibility, secondly, to lead themselves. If we are able to lead ourselves in a significant proportion, then we'll be able to choose leaders who reflect us, where we will stop clapping our hands at people just because they come from our tribe. And I hope this is the last year we congratulate the president for naming someone who came from our tribe. It is not an achievement to be born in a tribe. So we need to stop that nonsense and begin to congratulate the president for nominating people who have decided to make it their life's work to give both life and service to their country.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us this morning to review the week that has been. And that's where we finish this segment. And we're going to take a short break. But before that, just to let